Greetings, this is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. Hope you're doing well tonight. We continue with our book study, Apprenticed to Magic, W.E. Butler. If this is something that you are looking forward to, have been looking forward to, if this is something that you enjoy, I urge you to please hit the like button. Peace and greetings to everybody present. Anna Molly says, "Oh no, you have the chipmunk voice again." Let me see if I can fix that. Testing. How about now? Are we still on chipmunk time? Alright, looks like I'm good. Looks like I am great. So, peace and greetings to everybody present. Peace, Anna Molly. Richard Tracy, peace. WVT, peace to you. Christian, peace and welcome. Rhapsofoams, peace. J. Baldhale, peace. Gang Stalking Simulation, peace. Sunshine Chick, peace. Always good to see you. Alright, so one person said you're good, but some more people are saying that I still have the chipmunk voice. So which one is it now? I need a legit assessment. Somebody tell me how this audio is before I get started. Mic check. Alright, let me see. Always something. Let's see. Automatically adjust. Turn that shit off. This, that. Alright, so at any point, what I tell you. Might have to just unplug it and re-plug it in. Alright, Anna Molly says that's better. I'm gonna go with that. Whoever said it sounded good earlier, shame on you. Alright, so now we can begin. Apprenticed to Magic, W.E. Butler. Where did we leave off? Let's check out this table of continents. Alright, so looking at the table of contents, we've gone all the way down. Fantasy is the ass, which carries the arc. There's where we talked about how imagination is the gateway into these deeper regions of the mind. The multitude of counselors, that's where we talked about having a bunch of people's opinions affecting your progress. I know some people it's just best to not talk about this type of thing with. What else? Yeah, so going out and coming in, that's where we are. Chapter 10, page 67. Sunshine Chick says, now I'm hearing an echo. There may be a way to fix that. There may be a way for me to fix that. Is anybody else hearing an echo? All right, now you should not have an echo. Now there should not be an echo. All right, so let's get started with this. Chapter 10, going out and coming in. All right, so as you now seem able to project mental images at will. Oh, I'm hearing the echo. As you now seem to be able to project mental images at will, I want to give you the basic instruction for accomplishing what is commonly called astral projection. This means that you actually project a carefully built thought form, and then by a certain mental trick, locate your consciousness in the projected form. Now, I remember reading about this and practicing this from a particular teacher that goes by the name of Ophiel. Perhaps if you study those books, that might sound familiar to you as well. Notice what he said here, right? Astral projection. When most people think of astral projection, according to what Butler has described, it's almost as if most people have a very strange idea of what astral projection is. But in truth, he says this means that you actually project a carefully built thought form, and then by a certain mental trick, locate your consciousness in the projected form. The form which you build up in this way is known among us as the body of light. In certain Eastern books, it is termed the Manomaya Kosha. Who remembers the Manomaya Kosha? The Manomaya Kosha, a name which may be literally translated as the thought-created sheath or the body of illusion. Nice. I have met many people who either by training or natural aptitude have possessed this power to project consciousness in an external form. Those who are trained do it in a somewhat different manner, by a positive splitting of the moon, from those who possess that peculiar makeup of etheric or vital body, which is the basis of the physical manifestations produced by those people who are known in spiritualism as materializing mediums. Do we follow so far? being able to create a carefully built thought form and then projecting your consciousness into it. There are some people who are naturally gifted at this, and there are some people who have to learn, right? When it comes to magical aptitude, I often like to think of, like, say, Batman versus Superman, right? Superman is born with it, but Batman has the resources to build it himself. You see what I mean? So he also mentions the splitting of the moon, right? And the splitting of the moon, obviously is a metaphor. It's a metaphor for the work that is done with the etheric body, utilizing the etheric body to transfer your consciousness into this astral body, this Manomaya Kosha. Peace, MC Maestro. So, yeah, the contrast here is that you've got one who is literally born with the ability, then you have one who has the resources to develop the skill. Same thing with working with magic. Some people have a natural aptitude, and some people have to work a little bit harder. That doesn't mean that one is better or worse, right? Because as we see with sports, basketball and everything else, you can have the natural talent, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have a career in the sport. Peace, Kevin Wise. Peace, Kev Rose, SS God. The peculiarity of the etheric double of the materialization medium is that the connection with its material counterpart is a loose one, right? Now, of course, we know when we talk about the etheric double, we're talking about how the etheric body and the physical body are like two ends of a pole, a north and a south, a positive and a negative, right? So what happens with your etheric body trickles down into your physical body. The etheric body is actually a part of the physical body. It's just the subtle aspect of the physical body. So he says the peculiarity of the etheric double of the materialization medium is that the connection with its material counterpart is a loose one. And under certain conditions, it may be extruded therefrom. So he's talking about people who have a natural ability, a natural aptitude to somewhat extend or separate their etheric body. So he says with those particular people, the connection is a loose connection, and under certain conditions, it may be extruded therefrom, right? It may be projected, it may be pushed out. Actually, as it is, the mold upon which the physical body is built, total projection of the vital body would mean death. However, this is what is called a fluidic body and can be caused to divide, as it were, a certain minimum amount, always remaining with the physical body. By a very wonderful process, the vital body, then exteriorized in this way, can draw actual material matter from the body and build itself up in a form which is quite perceptible to ordinary sight. He's saying here that there are some people who are skilled enough to project their etheric body and actually pull from the physical body, because like I said, the physical and the etheric are like two poles connected to each other, not separate. And that there are some people who can have an aptitude to materialize. And a good way to think about this is that when it comes to projection, it's not necessarily about concrete quantity. It's more like a percentage. You've got, like, say, 100% etheric body. Well, 100% of that etheric body never separates from the physical, because obviously that would mean you die. So there's always a percentage that stays in the physical. And he's saying that these people who have the natural aptitude to project, they're able to transfer a larger percentage of the etheric body into its own instance. Peace, Star Lion. In the materialization seances of the spiritualists, the process is done without the medium understanding or in any way directing the process. It is then understood that the projection is due to the activity of discarnate people who mold the projected matter into the appearance of their own former material body. That is to say that this may be so in some cases. I am firmly convinced from my own experiences in this field. But in many cases, it is not necessary to suppose that the spirits of the dead have anything to do with it. In any case, whether we are wearing the earthly overcoat or have thrown it off, either temporarily or permanently, as it were, as we have been spiritual beings. He's saying here that back in this day, when this was written, a lot of groups held seances together, and it was one or more person's task in the group to actually be the manifestation medium. And with these people being able to project the aspects of their etheric body into material substance, it would be these individuals who would allow for the medium through which the spirit could channel itself into the physical plane. It's a different type of channeling. Tennyson, in one of his poems, refers to the ghost in man. The ghost in man, which is meeting with the ghost which was once man. Always remember that you are just as much a spiritual being now as ever you will be through all the ages of eternity. But to return to our astral projection, it is one of the greatest experiences which come to you when you begin to work on this magical path. To stand in the room and look at your own physical body lying deep in sleep is something which gives to you an absolute conviction that in spite of all the materialistic philosophers may say, you are something more than that body, that you are a being which is independent of that body and capable of existing apart from it. In other words, it's something else when you actually experience this out-of-body phenomenon, right? Everybody can talk about it. You can watch videos, you can read books, and you can listen to other people speak on it. And you could even believe it based on words. But once you actually have this experience, it becomes an unshakable fact for you, right? So it's easy to debate things that you haven't experienced. But once something is actually locked in, there's no reason to debate because you know it's not something that anyone can argue away. Consider that when it comes to these arguments you may get caught up in. Nobody would argue about the sky being a color other than what it is because you experience it. I well remember, after 40 years and more, the wonder and exhilaration I experienced when I first stood forth in the body of light. At the same time, there are certain drawbacks and dangers which I want to explain to you before I give you the instruction which will help you to achieve this wonderful feat. I am telling you of these dangers in order that you may have a clear mental picture of the process right from the beginning of your work along this particular line. It is in ignorance that fear is conceived, and fear is the greatest hindrance to success in magical work. Fear is the greatest hindrance to success in magical work. If you know the pitfalls, then you can proceed with confidence. But if you walk in ignorance, then will your uninformed imagination people the unseen world with fantastic figures of dread. Again, using the idea of balanced activity, which is implicit in the Kabbalistic philosophy, caution on the pillar of force and confidence on the pillar of form provide the balancing opposites which enable you to travel in the light. All right, so now we're speaking in terms of a battery, positive and negative, right? Caution when it comes to the left-hand path. Caution when it comes to the right-hand path. Confidence when it comes to the left-hand path. Are you able to utilize those two aspects of the battery? He said that this balance of caution on the pillar of force and confidence on the pillar of form, we know from mystical Kabbalah and occult Kabbalistic studies that the pillar of force is the right-hand pillar, right? Chokmah, Chesed, Netzach, that's the pillar of force. The pillar of form is the left-hand pillar. Bina, Gibura, Hod. Caution on the pillar of force, confidence on the pillar of form. That provides the balancing opposites, which enable you to travel in the light. And all of us have a particular style leaning towards one or the other, right? I like to reference my favorite game, Fortnite. You've got some people who charge in with confidence, and there are some people who kind of stick back with caution, right? What's your style? Do you move forward mostly with confidence, or are you more reserved and cautious? But the key is to balance the two. There are two forms of astral projection, and I want to point out to you the essential difference between them. One is entirely involuntary and not in any way under the control of the person concerned. Here again, much depends upon whether the projector slips out of his own accord, or whether he is sent out by the power of another. In my own first successful astral flight, I was assisted by the power of my own teacher. And this is so in very many cases where random experiments are being carried out by those who have gained their instruction from one or another of the many books which touch upon these subjects. Where the teacher knows what he is about. Where the teacher knows what he is about, this help can be very effective. But the experiments must not stop at this purely passive projection, lest an unhealthy dependence upon him be built up. In any case, when once you enter the lodge, you will be required to pledge yourself not to allow any control of your will by another person. The second type of projection, where the person is concerned, voluntarily steps out from the physical body. This is a more difficult feat, but it has the advantage that the operation is under his own control. There is an intermediate class of projection where the power to step out of the physical body suddenly appears, usually to the dismay and fear of the projector. In these cases, the sudden appearance of this power may be due to the welling up from the deeper mind of memories of occult training in previous lives. But in many cases, it is due to ill health or certain psychic conditions surrounding and affecting the person to whom the experience comes. Which cause is operating in any given case is a matter for experts who, in these cases, are men and women to whom this experience is a commonplace occurrence. So much nonsense has been foisted upon the public by so-called experts, doctors, psychiatrists, and orthodox parsons, that those of us who have been working in these fields for many years have ceased to worry about the opinion of those who attempt to lay down the law on subjects of which they have no actual experience. So do not worry about the opinions of Dr. X or Bishop Y, or as Bobby Hemmett would say, Reverend Hamhock and Bishop Biscuit. Don't worry about the opinions of Dr. X or Bishop Y, or for the matter of fact, the opinions of the chap on the next bench who jeers at the whole subject. Dang. Yeah, that reminds me of another Bobby Hemmett quote where some guy in the audience is like, well, I never heard that or seen that before. How do I know it's real? Well, you don't, I don't expect you to know nothing. You just another nigga off the street. Essentially, the opinions of people who have nothing to do with the subject matter. Like, how could you even allow it to affect your process whatsoever? That's like me having an opinion on the basketball game that's happening right now, or the football game. XYZ team sucks. I can't name one player. Would you listen to my opinion on that? The laughter of fools is as the crackling of the thorns beneath a pot. The laughter of fools is as the crackling of the thorns beneath a pot, says the Bible. If you have ever tried to use the desert thorns as fuel for cooking, you will realize the point of this. There's a lot of flame and noise, but very little effective heat. Interesting. So we've got these thorns, these desert thorns, that some people have attempted to use under the pot to heat it up. There's a lot of crackling, a lot of popping, a lot of light, but very little heat because the fuel actually sucks. He says, the laughter of fools is as the crackling of the thorns beneath a pot. A lot of flame, a lot of noise, but very little effective heat. There are really only two dangers in the practice of astral projection and full consciousness. One, which is purely physical, is the possibility of strain upon the heart. The heart is a very tough organ and can stand far more strain than many people realize. But it can be tried beyond its limits and will suffer accordingly. Now, generalizations are dangerous. But broadly speaking, if you have any kind of heart weakness or abnormality, then the usual methods of projection are not for you, and you will be wise to realize the fact. There are other ways of achieving the same end, but they are slower in their action. Nevertheless, they are just as effective. As a matter of fact, I shall be giving you some preliminary instruction along these other lines very shortly. The second danger is that the wonder of these experiences may lead you to attempt to escape the woes and worries of this mundane plane by retreating to the inner planes whenever the storms of life become a bit boisterous. And this may lead to a pathological mental condition which will bring you into the legitimate sphere of the expert psychiatrist. This, however, can only happen if your basic philosophy has been built up on the wrong premises. And this is what you'll see mostly in social media. You'll see people that talk about astral projection and the astral plane. And for the extreme most part, it's going to be people who, if they're talking from experience and not just copy and paste from someone else, it's used in such a way to escape from the troubles of life. I've seen this with my own eyes with several folks. Let's astral project and have astral sex. When the foundation is faulty, it doesn't matter what kind of power is achieved. It's going to be used to soothe emotional wounds. So until those emotional wounds are soothed and healed and balanced, any type of power is going to be abused. That's why they say, they say absolute power corrupts absolutely. Well, that's because 9 times out of 10, the person wielding that absolute power is going to be somebody with unhealed shadow. MC Maestro says, I think Dion Fortune talks about being physically fit for a Kundalini awakening for the same reason. I can dig it. You have been taught the Kabbalistic philosophy, and you know that this philosophy teaches the necessity of leading a full life on this physical plane and of evading none of the duties that are part of it. Brief refreshment after labor is permissible, but extended holidays on the inner levels are not in the plan. The Kabbalistic philosophy teaches that the necessity of living a full life on the physical plane is the goal, and evading none of the duties that are part of it. Brief refreshment after labor is permissible, but extended holidays on the inner levels are not in the plan. Now, in your case, the two main dangers do not seem to me to be liable to cause trouble. Your physical health is good, your heart is sound, and you are sufficiently down to earth to be immune from any threat of psychological escapism. We can therefore go ahead with the instructions which will enable you to step forth from this apparently solid flesh in full consciousness. In full consciousness. Again, I want to warn you that success in this branch of magical work depends upon steady and sustained practice. Consistency is key. I know that's a horrifying word. Consistency is key. That's a big part of discipline. And magical success depends almost entirely upon discipline. Any desultory work along these lines is doomed to failure. You must persevere with the exercises without setting a time limit to your perseverance. Ooh, that's a good one. Underline that. Highlight that. You must persevere with the exercises without setting a time limit to your perseverance. It may be that almost immediately you will be able to step forth in full consciousness, or that it may take weeks, months, or even years before success is yours. But whatever time you take, remember that the actual exercises are also valuable aids to visualization and concentration, apart from their actual objective. Are you somebody that hears the fact that success might take years? Do you hear that and then think to yourself, you know what, this ain't even worth it, I'm gonna go do something else? Does that scare you? And here's the thing also, like, think about your gut reaction. Everybody's gonna say, no, I'm gonna stick with it to the end, it's a lifestyle. Everybody's gonna say that. But who are you really? Like, if the concept that this might take years to have success at, does that turn you off and make you start looking to do something else? There comes a point where those who are really in this for the long haul aren't even affected by the concept of time. But those who are in it for either escapism or entertainment, when they hear things like that, it sets off a red flag and an alarm and says, this ain't it. Let's go do something else. I heard somebody say that, oh, it can be done in a week or a day. Let me go listen to them. Let me go try their techniques, because obviously their techniques are better. Raph says, why does it always seem like some motherfuckers in the school of magic just want to use these terms to run a business with a spiritual filter over it? Hey, it's human. That's what you're gonna see all across every field of life. Anything that captures people's attention will be monetized. It's not limited to this. J. Baldhill says, I've been spending quite some time now on my current magical working. Yeah. Like what Butler said, you must persevere with the exercises without setting a time limit to your perseverance. Like the concept of time, that's for me, that's gone out the window. I don't even care. It's not even something I'm concerned with anymore. Like, why? I've done workings that took minutes. I've done workings that have taken years. And what I found is that, you know what? If I set my intention to make something happen, there's no changing that. Like, you definitely, if your intentions begin to change and falter and alter based on the fact that what you observe in the world doesn't correspond with your intention, was your intention even strong enough? In other words, if your intention is to manifest XYZ and you're not seeing it, and then you decide to change your mind and give up, what your intention wasn't even strong enough to alter the physical reality. It's always a contest. Which will is stronger, your will or the will of nature, Prakriti, the matrix? Most people aren't stronger than the matrix, so they allow the matrix to give them what they believe they deserve. Let's continue. It has suddenly occurred to me that you will have begun to wonder whether there is time in the working day for you to carry out all the instructions I have given you. I remember thinking something like this myself when I first started my magical apprenticeship. But in point of fact, things are not always what they seem, and it is not as bad as this. As you begin to master the early exercises, you will find that the time necessary for success becomes less and less. Listen, as you begin to master the early exercises, you will find that the time necessary for success becomes less and less, until what formerly involved 10 minutes or so now only takes half a minute, since the subconscious mind has begun to form an automatic habit. And the exercises themselves are beginning to produce the necessary developments in the inner body. Ooh. But in these matters, time, as we experience it down here, matters less than we think. You are not being crammed for an examination which will take place on a certain fixed date, but are being given an apprenticeship which will merge into craftsmanship when you have gained the necessary proficiency, and not before. Not before. You're not being crammed for an exam, right? An exam is going to take place on a specific date at a specific time. It's a deadline, a looming, threatening deadline at that. But see, an apprenticeship is different. An apprenticeship works and grows as you work and grow. So to become intimidated and to gain anxiety by the concept of time means that you've got the frame incorrect. You've got to reframe it into a more useful and appropriate frame. Since it is an apprenticeship, it follows that long before you reach the end of it, you will be doing quite a lot of practical work. And what is more, Your work will be taken up into the great plan and will be used by those master craftsmen with whom and under whom we all serve. Now let us return to the actual instructions for the projection of the body of light. As it is called in our school, the best time for this projection as far as you are concerned is before you go to sleep. But it will be well to attempt it also at certain other times of the day. This, of course, will be conditioned by your daily routine of work. Love and be, peace and greetings. Raf says, so you essentially just had a goal and it eventually happened. And by intention, you mean just doing physical things. Yes and no. When I say intention, I don't mean anything physical. I don't think intention is physical. By intention, that means that I've made up my mind that I am going to exist within a certain frame, that my world is defined by this, that this is going to happen, that this is the way things are. All that is agreed upon on as many levels as possible, right? I agree. I make that agreement on as many levels as possible. And once that agreement is made, at that point, what happens physically has to correspond and conform to that agreement, even if it takes mental gymnastics. So since reality conforms with the agreements that I made, I behave and act as if. And what happens is that one of those realities has to be true and the other is no longer true. The question is, which one is which? The reality that you decided in your head and made an agreement on, does that one become a lie? Simply because it didn't happen as fast as you wanted it to happen? The danger with that is you start to develop a habit of attempting to cause reality to change, and then it doesn't, so you give up. And you teach yourself that this is not the way. So, but it will be well to attempt it also at certain other times of the day. This, of course, will be conditioned by your daily routine of work. It is well to remember, however, when you start your attempts at projection, to tell your wife that you are going to do that and impress upon her that it would not be helpful if she were to suddenly disturb you. Your training in the building up of thought forms now comes into practice. You have to build up in your mental vision a thought form, which will act as the mold upon which the fluidic etheric substance will flow, and so provide the link between the physical and superphysical levels of consciousness. The link between the physical and the superphysical levels of consciousness. That's what the etheric body is for. Understand it. MC Maestro, Stuffed Dog 69, peace. So understand the importance here of the etheric body, right? The fluidic etheric body. And he keeps referencing the etheric body with liquid metaphors. Again, this is not an accident. Nothing is an accident. The etheric body relates to the water element. The water element. So look, you have to build up your mental vision, a thought form, which will act as the mold upon which the fluidic etheric substance will flow, and so provide the link between the physical and superphysical levels of consciousness. What shape this form should take is very largely a matter for your own choice. I started my projection experiments by building a thought form of a figure in a deep blue robe with a cowl over the head. a silver girdle around the waist, and supported by a fine chain, a rather ornate Rosicrucian cross. However, I was at that time a great admirer of the books of the late Marie Corelli, hence the form I built was directly inspired by a passage in one of them. I remember that my teacher was mildly amused by my choice, but he did not raise any objection. As a matter of fact, you can make this thought form as you wish, avoiding, of course, any grotesque or unsuitable form. So, if you didn't catch what he just said there, he just described the practice of creating his body of light, his etheric body. The etheric body, once again, it's represented by the water element. And he also referred to it as a psychic mold, right? You use this etheric body to craft and shape your avatar, right? This is what you use. This is what you use to move around in the spiritual plane. Now, I did teach a class on this, and in that class, it was recommended to really use your imagination to create whatever form you like. And by the way, you're not limited to one form. You're limited to how far your imagination can keep up with you. Over time, though, you start to choose probably one to three that you work with all the time. But it's literally up to you. Whatever you can hold on to, whatever makes it easier for you to have that agreement, like I mentioned before, that agreement that, yeah, this is what's going down right now. So that form that he described, right? Jay Baldhale says, oh shoot, like the cover of his other book, right? A whole lot like this. I wonder why he chose this image, right? So as you're listening to this, what would you choose as your etheric form, right? Don't make it too complicated as far as, oh, I got to make the right choice. Let me think. No, something already came to your mind. Something already came to your mind. What would you use? Let's continue. I would suggest that you formulate such a figure as I have described, though you need not follow my pattern exactly. As you will find later on in your magical work, you are already a member of a group composed of both incarnate and disincarnate people. And this group is working always on the inner planes. As it is a group using ceremonial, it has its own particular uniform. And once you have linked up with this group in full consciousness, whether through your own personal powers or through the psychic faculties of another, then you will know what is the correct form to build in your own particular case. Listen, I'm part of a group. Some of you in this chat right now are part of the same group. And to be quite honest, many of you that are part of this group are not even consciously aware of it. But one of the big reasons that I'm doing what I do is because the way that circumstances are now, this is really the most efficient way to continue the practices of this particular group. It's in somewhat of a hibernation phase, so to speak. But there's plenty of us who have incarnated here and are continuing the work that we left off previously. Why do you think you're able to understand this information in a world full of smooth brains, when you could have been one of them? It's not like most of us were raised by occultists. We were raised by normal ass people. Yet here we find ourselves doing ancient mantras and ancient rituals, researching information that really would not have been stumbled upon without pure intent. C Main, peace. Let's continue. Look at that. He says, let me read that again because I really like that paragraph. I would suggest that you formulate such a figure as I have described, though you need not follow my pattern exactly. As you will find later on in your magical work, you are already a member of a group composed of both incarnate and disincarnate people. And this group is working always on the inner planes. As it is a group using ceremonial, it has its own particular uniform. Look, some of y'all are attracted to certain symbols and utilize certain symbols. You really don't have any idea why. You come to find out a little bit later on that it has spiritual significance, right? Some of you are drawn to certain symbols. Maybe you've had a certain mandala, right? Or a certain design in your environment that you're just drawn to. And you find out years later, oh yeah, this actually means this. Instrumental Conductor says, you can. Why can't you find an electronic version of this book to display the text on the screen? Why can't you? You got the same internet I got. Why can't you? Who said I couldn't? I'm gonna ask you the same question. Why can't you find an electronic version of this book to display the text on your screen? Get off my plane. You should be happy that you even heard of this book, homeboy. You wouldn't have heard of this book if it wasn't for me demanding the damn PDF. Get your ass out my chat. Now, as it is a group using ceremonial, it has its own particular uniform. And once you have linked up with this group in full consciousness, whether through your own personal powers or through the psychic faculties of another, then you will know what is the correct form to build in your own particular case. So look, even in this formulation of this etheric body, there is going to be influence and assistance, right? The appearance of your thought form having been fixed, you can now proceed to build and project it in the same way as you have trained yourself to project such forms. I found it very helpful in the early stages of my training to project the form in this way. I would first visualize and project a form which was a sphere of deep blue light about the size of an orange. When I had done this successfully, I made it expand rapidly and take shape and size. At the conclusion of the exercise, I would then reverse this process and finally draw this ball of light back into myself. So did you catch that process? Like, does that make sense? He says that he first visualizes and projects a form, which was a sphere of deep blue light about the size of an orange. Right? And when he's done that successfully, when he's projected that sphere of blue light, He makes it expand rapidly and then take the shape of his form, right? And then he goes through and does the exercise, and afterwards he reverses that process and finally draws that ball of light back into himself. Peace. Curve says, sounds like an exercise I've done before from a book Panic mentioned. Yeah. My cousin was actually describing a method like this to me just last night about how to project your etheric body to scan an object. This is literally what he was talking about. You develop a sphere, you project it out of one of your chakras, you scan the object and then bring it back into yourself and read the data. Interesting. Remember, this is not the actual body of light which you are attempting to project. It is only the form, the mold into which that fluidic body will flow. Right? So this that he just described is not actually the body of light. Neither is the etheric body the body of light. What's he saying? He's saying that this is actually the mold, the form, the outline, the blueprint through which the fluidic body will flow. You will remember that I have told you of the work which goes on in the materialization seances, where the etheric substance flowing from the medium is organized into recognizable forms by the thoughts of both incarnate and disincarnate people. Here you are doing the work of both parties. You are supplying the material and are also building the form into which that material may be built. At the same time, you must remember that you are not attempting to project a form which will be visible to ordinary physical eyesight. This is a further development which can be left until you have received further training. As a matter of fact, it is not often attempted, since it can only be done by those who have the particular etheric makeup, which I have previously referred. Remember what I said, Superman versus Batman? Some people are born with the ability to do this. And it's my understanding those people are usually ones who end up becoming Orphic style magicians as opposed to Hermetic style. If you've watched my channel, you've heard me mention there's two types of magus. You've got the Hermetic style and you got the Orphic style. Typically, the people who are born with the ability to materialize and have an easier time projecting, these people usually end up being Orphic types because they naturally begin to experience these things without any type of study. So they start to come to their own conclusions based on their practice. C-Main says light and dark. I wouldn't even put it as light and dark. I would, like I said, I would put it more like Superman, Batman. Superman is born with superpowers and he has to learn how to manage them properly. Batman is born with the resources to develop himself in order to be able to, stand side by side with Superman. You could say the same thing about like Iron Man and Thor, I suppose, or Iron Man and Captain America. Something of that nature. So as a matter of fact, it is not often attempted, since it can only be done by those who have the particular etheric makeup to which I have previously referred. In any case, although it is a very wonderful feat, it is not necessary for you to project such a visible form. The finer grade of etheric substance which you will use is quite sufficient for the work you will be doing. Now you are ready for the actual attempt at projection. The method I'm going to describe is that which I used when I was being trained, and I can vouch for its effectiveness. What I cannot vouch for is the time you will need before you are successful. So much depends upon other factors. It may be only a few weeks, or it may be a matter of months or even years. Again, if I said that to you, would that make you give up? If I told you it might take weeks or it might take years, would that take the wind out of your sails? Would that make the steam stop pumping from your chimney? It may be a few weeks, or it may be a matter of months or even years. One man whom I knew took 7 years to achieve success in this operation. He was exceptional, however. At the same time, he displayed an amount of perseverance, which was an object lesson to all of us. Perseverance. Adventures with Eric says, is this live? No. Xander Promeo, peace. Xander Promeo says, I am patient. I have long-term goals and do short-term experiments to keep up my interest. That's a wonderful way to do it. That's a wonderful way to do it. The first part of this method of projection has been the building up of the form, and you now have this form standing before you, right? We talked about that. You build up the form, have it standing in front of you. Your job is to transfer what is sometimes known as the star of consciousness, that point within you where you feel yourself to be I. Most of us has to do with being in our head behind our eyes, right? MC Macho says, I think Samara was responding to your question. She should have responded better than that. That's just how I get down. So you have this form standing before you. Your job is to transfer what is sometimes known as the star of consciousness, that point within you where you feel yourself to be I. With most people, this point of self-consciousness is located in a vague fashion somewhere behind the root of the nose, but with certain other types, it is located in the solar plexus. This latter position is not so common among those who come for training in the Western schools, though it does occur in some who are of the Celtic blood. But wherever the star of consciousness is located, it has to be transferred to the form you have built. You have also to transfer to the form some of the finer etheric substance of your own vital body. You have to breathe into the form the breath of life. Interesting. As you sit quietly, contemplating the form you have built, breathe in a full breath. At the same time, direct your attention to the ground beneath your feet. Or, if you are lying upon your back, direct it to a point just beyond the soles of your feet. This is actually the earth contact of your aura, the point where certain etheric energies flow into you from the planetary etheric levels. So, as you breathe a full charge of air into your lungs, mentally draw up at the same time a full charge of energy from the earth consciousness. Excuse me. Let me read that again. So as you breathe a full charge of air into your lungs, mentally draw up at the same time a full charge of energy from the earth center, and bring this energy up to wherever you locate your star of consciousness. So he's saying, acknowledge and make that contact between your personal center, your aura, down into the earth contact, right? And then as you breathe deeply, you draw that awareness back up into this star of consciousness. Then as you exhale the breath, project the etheric energy out to the form you have built, right? Breathe in from the earth up to the star and out into your projected form, right? So then as you exhale the breath, project the etheric energy out into the form you have built. At the same time, endeavoring to go with the stream of force, riding upon it as it were, into the projected form. It will help if you picture a kind of psychic cord linking you with it, and project both the etheric energy and your consciousness along this cord. In this way, you are conforming to the etheric anatomy, since there is such a link between the vital body and its dense counterpart. So the cool thing about that is we're operating with the principle of correspondence, as above, so below. Your etheric body is attached to the physical body by this cord. Your astral body is attached to the etheric body by this cord. So as you're creating this projection, you do the same thing. You make sure that you are connecting this cord, this cosmic umbilical cord. You may have to repeat this part of the exercise many times before you have any success. Or it may be that almost at once you will find yourself in full consciousness in the body of light. But whether it takes a long time or otherwise, it is well worth working for. What usually happens when success has been achieved is that you are so surprised that you panic and bolt back into the safety of the physical body like a young rabbit into its burrow. You are, however, in no danger, and if you can only hold on for a moment, you will suddenly experience something which will, as it were, anchor you on the etheric levels. With some, it is a curious kind of click, something like the sound of an electric light switch being turned off. With others, it may take the form of a musical note which suddenly sounds in the head and indicates that you are now out of the body in full consciousness. You will now begin to perceive the actuality of the psychic umbilical cord, which links you with the physical form which you have left for a time. You will find that it tends to draw you back into the body, and it is best to get a good distance away. You will notice too that the nearer to the body you are, the thicker the silver cord becomes. So you will notice too that the nearer to the body you are, the thicker the silver cord becomes, and the stronger the attraction of the physical. You will find too that you are, as it were, swimming in some subtle etheric sea amid swirling currents of energy. But you will find that you have the power to resist such forces and to maintain your balance. Experiences vary with the individual, but in my own projections, I have always found myself in a realm where the ordinary physical objects were distinctly visible in a bluish light. Once again, reference to that which is called the Chitakasha mentioned in Dharana Darshan, the first couple of chapters. Experiences vary with the individual, but in my own projections, I have always found myself in a realm where the ordinary physical objects were distinctly visible in a bluish light. Has anybody ever experienced that? One peculiarity of this illumination is that it casts no shadows, and the effect is rather strange until one becomes used to it. You will find a strong inclination on your part forthwith to visit some friends on earth, or else to meet someone who has passed from physical life. But for the time being, I would counsel you to confine yourself to the task of getting out of the body in full consciousness. That's going to be the most important thing. Later on, you can try to travel in this etheric world, but what you are now doing is simply the preliminary work, and it is this which is so important. If now, having successfully projected in the body of light, you wish to return into the physical, and in your early experiments you should make only brief projections, all that is necessary is for you to approach the physical body. Immediately the silver cord will begin to exert an increasingly powerful pull, and you will be drawn rapidly back into the physical plane consciousness. When you are back in the body, it is advisable to write down at once your recollections of the experience. If you wait for any length of time, you will find the memory has become dimmed. Now for 2 warnings and 1 bit of an encouragement. Never try these projection experiments during the period of the waning moon, which just passed. The etheric currents are not favorable, and although at a later stage you will be able to master them, they can hinder your first attempts. My second warning is to keep strict silence during these experiments. You will have quite enough to do in getting out of the physical without being impeded by the antagonistic thought influences of others who know nothing of the subject, but who, nevertheless, either deny it or strongly disapprove of it. Remember the last part of the Rosicrucian motto, keep silent. To know, to will, to dare, to keep silent. Now, the encouragement. Although you may feel alone and rather forlorn as you first stand in the body of light, believe me when I tell you that you will not be alone. There will be others who are very near to you and ready to help you. Indeed, this is always the case. Whatever plane of life we are inhabiting, as Marcus Aurelius wrote so long ago, we are never less alone than when we think we are alone. On this note, I will end this very important part of these instructions. I want you to let me have the record of your experiments along this line in the usual way. Please note the following points. 1. Date and time of the experiment. 2. Your own physical and mental conditions. 3. The weather conditions. 4. Any other points which seem to you to be relevant to the experiment. All right. Chapter 10. This is now chapter 11. Chapter 11. The contact of power. Oh, the contact of power. So how are we so far? How are we doing so far? I'm going to take a quick break. Light another stick of incense. I like how he mentioned the moon and being aware of what particular phase that it's in. As I mentioned a few days ago, if you were on my live stream, I find that this year, for me, is going to be most suitable to begin to study and learn astrology. I'm going to start learning astrology in such a way that I can, start making my own horoscopes and predictions and stuff like that. I got quite a few cool books that have just arrived and some more on the way. So if you guys bear with me for just a second, I'll be right back, and perhaps I'll unbox the 2 that I received, if you care to see what I got. If you don't care, that's totally fine. We can continue with this book read. In fact, I might prefer to not share, but I'll be right back with chapter 11. And hey, if you haven't hit the like button, please do so. Oh yeah. I decided that I wanted to switch it up from my monster a little bit. I'm going to go full throttle this time. Tapping into my inner redneck white boy. Aside from that, I found the most awesome coffee, right? It's called Electric Unicorn, and it's Fruity Pebbles flavored. So in other words, it's pretty much as if like the coffee creamer that you use is Fruity Pebbles milk. It's amazing. I love it. Check it out. All right, so let's get through to chapter 11. Chapter 11. So how about this? I got two books. I'm going to crack them open. I'm going to crack open one of them, and then I'll crack the other one open later. So I think we'll pop open the biggest one. This thing is big and heavy. Let's see what it is. Let's see what we have. Oh, what a surprise. Totally forgot that I ordered this. So this one is the New American Ephemeris for the 21st century. Now what's good about the Ephemeris, in case you don't know, is that the Ephemeris has all the different positions of the different planets and the moon from now to 2100. So the next 100 years, basically. Apparently, it's better to rely upon the black and white than it is a random website. All right, I'll open the second one after this. Chapter 11, The Contact of Power. In this instruction, I want to show you how to make contact with and draw into yourself the energies with which you will later be working in the lodge. It is important that you should not only have a clear idea of these energies and their origin, but also that you should be able, in some measure at least, to make contact with them. As a general rule, the lodge does not like to deal with neophytes who have contacted the energies in a haphazard fashion, since it then falls to the lot of the teacher to break down the faulty habits which have been built up, and to train the apprentice in the methods used in actual magic work. Ardquark, peace. Ardquark says, nice. Love the ephemeris. Oh yeah, see? That comes from somebody who knows a little bit about astrology. If you don't know anything about astrology, the word ephemeris never enters your vocabulary. But if you start to take it seriously, then you'll understand the importance of having one. So, in your own case, I am trying to establish these good habits before you enter the door of the mysteries, and that which I am now going to give you is a safe, practical, and given perseverance and aptitude on your part, effective method of making contact with the energies which you will learn to use in the lodge. The first thing which I must impress upon you is that as far as you are concerned, these energies are entirely neutral. They can be used for good or evil purposes, and this, of course, applies to all natural forces. Contrary to popular belief, the Goetia is not a collection of evil spirits. The Goetia are actually neutral, which is why I chose to work with them. The Goetia are neutral, and the angels of the Shem HaMephrash are neutral. Peace, MC Maestro. Have an excellent evening. So he says, they can be used for good or evil purposes, and this, of course, applies to all natural forces. So do not think in terms of spiritual forces. They are truly spiritual forces, but so are all natural energies, whether they operate on the physical or the superphysical planes. All depends upon the use which is made of them. And here we come to the root of the moral teaching of this school. So much is regarded as moral and spiritual teaching, which in reality is nothing of the sort. And it is here that the first virtue of the path, as it has been termed, is so very important. The virtue of discrimination is your protection against the wrong application of these powers by yourself or by others. What do we mean by the term moral? What do you understand by the word? I am not a betting man, but I'd be willing to make a wager that the first idea that rises in your mind when you hear the word is something to do with sex. Am I not right? This is because the true meaning of the word has been limited in common use to this narrow definition. But it is not because the general use of the term is an incorrect one that you should accept its application. Indeed, it is imperative that you should learn to use the word in a much larger context. Oh, that almost was messy. Not on my watch, Playboy. Call me the specialist, professional, professor at occult science. Up in the laboratory. That's why your small tricks bore me. So, the general meaning of the word is something to do with the tribal customs. Certain things were good for the tribe as a whole and were enforced by chief and priest for the common good. The trouble was that as the community grew, both in numbers and intelligence, the mores, the tribal customs, began to be more difficult to apply, and in every age there was some form of revolt against the rigidity of the moral code. So he's talking about morality here. Morality, and honestly, as we've heard, some of us, morality really has no place in this level of occult science. It's not about morality. That's for the general populace. Because they don't, But essentially what he's talking about is the word morality and how it has more to do with the culture, it has more to do with the tribe than it has to do with actual right and wrong. Morality is not right or wrong. Morality is having to do with what the culture deems appropriate for the culture, what the tribe deems appropriate for the tribe. So right there, you're going to see that morality will be different from culture, from tribe to tribe, from group to group. What is good for one may be evil for another, which is why morality has no place in occult science and spirituality. Morality is for humans to behave well. Now, although we like to think that we are in every way superior to our forefathers, the sad truth is that we are in many ways just as limited as they were. Although great efforts have been made, and with some success, to bring a really enlightened attitude of mind to bear upon such age-old problems as juvenile delinquency, prostitution, and homosexuality, we are still bogged down by the intricate legal system which has been evolved down the ages, and which both church and state have enforced upon us. Peace, Dr. Zero Free. There are signs that the discontent which seethes underneath the present-day society will find vent in aggressive action. And this means that every step, however justified, towards a more enlightened application of the law will be fiercely resisted by those in church and state who feel that only in the preservation of the status quo is there any security. This fear of new things is characteristic of many of us, but in magic we are taught that in very truth the old order changeth, yielding place to new, and God fulfills himself in many ways, lest one good custom should corrupt the world. This is not to say that we advocate any wholesale breaking down of the moral and legal codes, which on the whole have served very well, for there is a great deal of sanctified common sense in the English common law. But it does mean that we must use a different measure to that used by our fellow citizens. If you will look at the 10 Commandments, which are regarded as standards in this matter, you will notice that they are all negative statements. Thou shalt not is their keynote. In the Hebrew nation before the time of our Lord, there had been many attempts to put out a more positive teaching. And he, as a master psychologist, took some of these earlier ideas and summed them up in 2 positive commandments, which both began with thou shalt. He added also another positive commandment, that ye love one another. Study these true expressions of the moral law, and you will see that they are real spiritual dynamite, calculated to bring down the walls of many legal and ecclesiastical Jerichos. But be careful not to twist the commandment to suit the case. It is the case which must be altered, and here is one in point. A famous, or to many people an infamous, occultist and magician, y'all already know who he's talking about, a famous, or to many people an infamous occultist and magician used his slogan, this statement: Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. It is the same idea as that expressed by St. Augustine. Love and do as thou wilt. But as the late Mr. Joad would have said, what do you mean by love? Here's the first. Have you ever in your long living life heard somebody compare Crowley's teachings with Christ's teachings? Mind blown. Awesome possum. It just goes to show how stupid the general public traditionally is. Can you tell me exactly how Aleister Crowley is evil? The answer will be a resounding no. Do what thou wilt. Love thy neighbor. So what do you mean by love? In actual practice, it resulted in forms of conduct which undoubtedly resulted in misery and suffering for many of those who tried to put this maxim into practice. The Greeks had a saying which gives one aspect of our magical attitude in these matters. It is midan idan, which means nothing too much. In our understanding, it signifies balance. And in the magical schools, it is said that equilibrium is the basis of the great work. In fact, we refer to the evil forces as the kings of Edom, the lords of unbalanced force. But I want you to notice that this condition of balance is not a purely static attitude of the mind. Something like the balance which the artist sometimes strives after, the balance of still life, the grouping into a pattern. That's a beautiful description of balance right there. Think about how the artist seeks to paint a picture or draw, right, a picture, or to construct an image, right? Look at this. The balance of still life, the grouping into a pattern. That's extraordinary. Boom, somebody just got it. Somebody just got it. Jay Baldhill says, Asmodeus just slapped me with some gnosis. Yeah, man, that's a heavy piece right there. Especially if you yourself has made a beautiful piece of art, right? Think about the process that it took for you to put the right patterns together. Man. In the words of Bobby Hemmett, getting to that real funky shit. Let's continue. The balance of still life, the grouping into pattern. Rather, is it the balance of the trapeze artist, which is a kinetic balance due to the employment of complementary forces. So your attitude towards life must be one of flexibility, but a flexibility which is based upon the rock of true morality, as opposed to established custom. Learn the difference here, right? We know established custom right now in your mind, because when we read the previous book reading and he talked about the Kabbalah and understanding the Sephiroth by attributing real life, real world experiences, I took that and I'm keeping that. Learning every aspect of magic, you have to be able to attribute a real life experience. So whenever you think about any spiritual concept, you've also got to think of an expression of that concept in the real world. What does it mean that the moon is in Pisces? Well, think about an experience that is happening between today, tomorrow, or yesterday, right? How does that relate? What do we mean new moon or full moon? Like there should be a real world experience that you can use in your dictionary. So look at what he's saying here. When he's talking about established custom, think about an established custom in the real world. Men are supposed to do this. A real man is supposed to do that. A real woman is supposed to do this. A high value woman, a high value man, right? There's all these established customs that people are giving to culture what each of us must do to fit into the tribe. It's tribal. It's not fact and truth. It's tribal. Think about some established custom. Oh, you have to go to college in order to survive and have a good job, or you have to do this, or you have to do that. Think about an established custom. Now let's go back. He says, in any case, when we're talking about this balance, he says, so your attitude towards life must be one of flexibility. You got to be able to move and flow, right? But a flexibility which is based upon the rock of true morality, right? True morality. He's talking about balance, about harmony, about what fits for the culture of your specific life, right? So your attitude towards life must be one of flexibility based upon the rock of true morality, not established custom. Fuck what these people talking about. All of them. Fuck what they talking about. You've got to establish your own personal sense of morality. But beware of making of your attempts to follow this path an exhibition which will bring you into headlong collision with established custom, right? But there's the trick. You're not trying to become this rebel that is, trying to stand out and change the system and save everybody, right? We've been there before. Because then you're just using this magic stuff as a mask, as an escape, which he repeatedly warns of in this book, and which you repeatedly see people do in the public sphere. Go back. But beware of making of your attempts to follow this path an exhibition which will bring you into a headlong collision with established custom. In any case, this will be a waste of energy, which, although it may gratify a masochistic strain in yourself, it will not help you in your chosen work. I'm stressing this now because as soon as you begin to get results from the exercises I'm about to describe, you will find that the energies which begin to flow into your being will need careful handling. And it is here that you will find the foregoing moral instruction of value. So when we're talking about this morality, it's not, oh, should I do this to somebody or should I do this or that? No, we're talking about you actually working with and balancing and managing these energies. Think about what he said when it comes to the balance of an artist painting a picture. Then think about what he says about the balance of being a trapeze artist, right? Kinetic, a moving balance, walking on a tightrope successfully, right? So how are you handling the energies at present, the energies that you're working with? That's where the morality should come into. How are you balancing yourself? Like I said, a personal culture, a personal tribe. Imagine if you and your conscious mind and your subconscious mind and all the members of your head were a little tribe on an island somewhere. What is the culture? What are the things that you all do? What are the things that are taboo that you don't do? That's the morality that you're beginning to create. Not some morality that's been imposed upon you that you have nothing to do with. So you know right from wrong. You have an inner knowledge of right from wrong. You don't need some stranger to tell you what is right and wrong. You already know. Peace, the second chamber. So he says that You will find that the energies which begin to flow into your being will need careful handling, and it is here that you will find the foregoing moral instruction of value. These forces which will find their channel through your mind must always be regarded as divine in their origin and nature. Let me read that again. These forces which will find their channel through your mind is the channel now for these forces that we're beginning to work with. These forces must be always regarded as divine in their origin and nature. The exercises which will bring through these energies are known as the exercises of the middle pillar. If you will look at the diagram of the Tree of Life, you will see that there are 3 vertical lines of the Sephirah, the stations on the tree. The middle vertical line, which passes through Malkuth, Yesod, Tifereth, Doth, and Kether, is the middle pillar. And you will notice that all the stations on this line are connected with the consciousness aspect of your own self. Let's talk about those different aspects. He says that Malkuth deals with the physical sensory consciousness. Malkuth deals with the physical sensory consciousness. Yesod with what is termed the subconsciousness. Yesod is with the subconscious or the personal unconscious. Tifereth is the sphere of super consciousness, right? So we got the physical, we got the subconscious, we got the super consciousness. Doth is the point where another order of awareness operates. Something out of your reach, something outside of your comprehension, right? Finally, in Kether, we have the unconditioned consciousness of the divine spark, which is the center and source of our existence. So before you say, oh, I know all of that, let's get a real world experience of each of those Sephirah. So let's think about your Malkuth, right? Your physical sensory consciousness. Let's think about your Malkuth, right? Your Malkuth is, your body, say maybe you're seated, maybe you're, I don't know, kneeling down, maybe you're in a car, maybe you're on the couch, on your bed. I don't know where you are, but think about the sensory body, what you're feeling, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. All that is your Malkuth. That raw physical sensory consciousness. That's your Malkuth. So when we talk about Malkuth, when we talk about the 10s on the tarot card deck, this is what we're referring to, right? Now let's talk about your Yesod, the subconscious, the personal unconscious. So with the Yesod, number 1, we're talking about the gut feeling. Here's the scenario. You lost your keys. You just put them down. You just put them little bitches down, but now you can't find them and you're frustrated. So here you are turning the house upside down. You're retracing your steps within the past 15 minutes. You're in the kitchen, you're looking at the dining room table, you're in your bedroom, you're lifting stuff up, you're looking everywhere. Your mind is racing to remember where you put those keys. Then you get kind of annoyed, frustrated, and you go do something else. And after a couple of minutes, you turn your head and there's your keys. It wasn't magic. Fairies and trolls and gnomes didn't come to hide your keys and bring them back. See, the subconscious mind operates on its own radio station, just like the conscious mind operates on its own radio station. So that when your conscious mind stopped overloading your awareness, it allowed time for the subconscious to speak up and say, hey, here it is. See, it doesn't speak in the same frequency as the conscious mind, so you're not going to hear it in a voice. It communicates through the body itself, y'all. That's why when you stop looking for them keys and you just kind of just go about your business and your head just happens to turn to look at them keys, that's the subconscious mind. That is the body operating itself, right? So when we talk about Yesod, we're talking about the subconscious mind. Of course, it also represents the memories and the emotions stored with those memories. It also represents your imagination and your ability to daydream and allow yourself to flow into an alternate reality. All that is Yesod. Now, can you compare the difference between Malkuth and Yesod? Can you see how they interlink together? Can you see how they're interwoven together, Malkuth and Yesod, based on what I just described? Now let's go to Tifereth, right? The sphere of super consciousness. Now, most people don't have an experience with Tifereth, but if you're someone who is attracted to my channel on purpose, you've had an experience with Tifereth, the super conscious. There's been a moment of genius in your life, a moment of genius where you've had a download, you've had a breakthrough, everything became super clear, even for a second, for a moment. Maybe this was during a time of stress or trauma. Maybe this was during a time of a mushroom or a LSD trip. But at some point in your life, you had a flash of genius, right? Maybe it happened while you were in church or having a spiritual experience. But that flash was enough to give you fuel for years, right? It opened up something in you where you knew, you know what? There is more to life than all this stuff I've been worried about. It only has to happen for a second and it sticks with you for a lifetime. That's how powerful this super consciousness of Tifereth is. And hey, we didn't even get to Doth yet. We didn't even get to Kether yet. See, a lot of people, that's your Kether. You think that's Kether. No. Still got plenty to go. Plenty to go. So we talk about Doth. He says Doth is the point where another order of awareness operates. And you don't get here unless you're trying to get here. This don't happen on accident. A Tifereth experience, that, like I said, that might happen where your life flashes before your eye. Tifereth. That might happen if you have a car accident or, you know, you about fell off of a mountain or something like that, and your life flashes before your eyes, and like you see something that changes how you move in the world. That's the Tifereth, and that could happen on accident. But the Doth experience is something that is worked towards. First of all, it takes a refinement of the lower self. First of all, you begin working on releasing the shackles of slavery that keep you chained to believing that Malkuth is the only existence, right? So you're practicing meditation. You're practicing working with your astral body. You're practicing dream work. You're actually doing these different techniques. And what happens is that you begin to expand what you're able to comprehend. You start to expand what you're able to comprehend. Most people are not able to comprehend past the Tifereth label, which means that many of us are having opportunities all the time to touch and be touched by God, but we literally don't have the equipment to translate that experience. So to have a Doth experience, you've got to build the machinery somewhat to make it that far. And he says that this is where another order of awareness operates. So this is a level even beyond genius. There's certain movies that you can watch that give you a very otherworldly feeling. And we can't quite describe it because it is beyond the range of what most people experience. I think for me, for example, think of the movie Alien, right? Not many of us are old enough to, well, shit, I wasn't born when it first came out, but some of us remember that movie before a bunch of like remakes and copies and stuff. A movie where these people go to this completely foreign territory and this indescribable strange beast that you can't even see or track or catch. It's something that's beyond your comprehension. It almost breaks your mind. I also like to think of the movie Hellraiser, right? Like when it first came out. Not any of the new horror, like before we became conditioned to the new types of horror movies, before the blood and guts type stuff. Think of Hellraiser, when that man was working with that box and the walls changed color and opened up and these creatures from beyond came through, right? Offering pleasure and pain beyond what he's able to enjoy, right? The second chamber says, hey, one is intentional, the other is triggered. Yes. Yes. And both of those examples that I gave, those were intentional experiences, right? Both of those movies consist of the main characters who intentionally went on a voyage to the beyond and encountered something that they could have never imagined. Now we're talking about Doth. And here's the thing now. There's a reason why I said horror movies. Because when you get to Doth, depending on what you're holding on to as far as your identity, you're going to, what's the quote in Hellraiser say? Angels to some, demons to others, right? Depending on what you identify yourself as, you're going to see this as the worst experience of your life or the most liberating experience of your life. See, there's a lot that cannot cross through the bridge of Doth. There's a lot that cannot cross through, which means you're going to have to leave some stuff behind. But like I said, if you identify strongly with the experiences of Malkuth and Yesod, as these experiences begin to feel ripped away from you, you're going to experience a certain level of pain, which will inevitably cause you to retreat. That's why a lot of, when you start getting into the higher levels of magic and stuff, there's heavy talk about non-attachment and letting go of the ego and things like that, because they can't come past this barrier. And there are beings and entities that live there, that exist there. So of course, when you get into a communion and a relationship with these types of entities, the conversation is very strange, very foreign, difficult to understand. Some of us here have experienced that. Most of us have not. Then of course, Kether, right? Kether, the unconditioned consciousness of the divine spark. This is the level that exists within all of us, but to consciously become aware of it is, it isn't possible with this type of equipment that we're used to operating with. We're not going to experience Kether with the human mind. Because if the ego and the personality becomes obliterated at the level of Doth, just imagine how much more alien Kether would be. The end of the movie Space Odyssey 2000, Odyssey, whatever it was called, 2001: A Space Odyssey, the end of the movie was just, it was alluding to something that couldn't even be recorded in a movie format. So it went straight metaphorical. Metaphor is the language of these higher levels. Symbolism and metaphor is the language of these higher levels, because like I said, we don't have the equipment to interpret what's being translated. But let's continue now. Hopefully you should have somewhat of a grasp of Malkuth, Yesod, Tifereth, Doth, Kether, right? Let's continue. Hence, I warn you against a very common error. Many apprentices have followed the instructions and awakened the energies, talk very boastfully of their contact with nirvanic levels. According to Eastern teachings, from which this term is derived, nirvana is a state of consciousness where we pass from this planetary and conditioned state of being into one of unconditioned being. Conditioned versus unconditioned. Do we know what that means? Let's take the example of a marble sculpture, right? If you see a marble sculpture of like a man, like a Greek marble sculpture of a man in his cloth looking up into the sky, that is conditioned marble. It's been shaped, it's been carved, it's been cut, it's been separated. Unconditioned marble is still in the earth, right? It's raw, it's untamed, it's uncut, it's wild. It's not a work of art, at least not what we would call a work of art. It's the pure rock in the ground. So you got conditioned and you got unconditioned. The second chamber says order versus chaos, right? So let's think about conditioned versus unconditioned. Now look, nirvana is a state of consciousness where we pass from this planetary conditioned state of being into one of unconditioned being. So imagine being a marble sculpture, what it would take for that sculpture to become pure marble in the ground again. What would it take for that to happen, right? Greetings, Imperial Love Goddess Princess Karen R.H. Jackson. I haven't seen you in like a year. All right. A very necessary corrective to the tendency of overrating personal achievements along this line is to remember that according to the Kabbalistic teaching, there is a tree in every sephirah. You've heard that before, right? Guess what? In the Malkuth state of consciousness, there's an entire tree of 10 sephirah. In the Yesod state of consciousness, there's an entire tree, so on and so forth. A tree in every sephirah. Thus, in Malkuth, all the other sephirah are experienced, but through and under the veil of earthly things. The experience of the form of consciousness of Kether through this earthly veil is a very wonderful experience, but it is not the full, undistorted consciousness, which belongs only to those who may legitimately be termed masters of life. So again, you may get a glimpse of something awesome and incredible, but please remember, more than likely you're seeing the Malkuth version of that, which means that there's still layers and levels to be penetrated. There's still layers and levels to be unwrapped and unraveled. This is by the way of discouraging any tendency on your part to what the Greeks called hubris, the strange spiritual pride and arrogance which so easily arises when the mighty forces of the unseen universe begin to find their channels through our personality. You ever see somebody start acting different once they get a little bit of money, or they start acting different once they get a little bit of attention, or something about their character changes when they start to have something that they can really hold over other people, like maybe a new position? You ever see somebody change like that? They might get a new job and all of a sudden they're better than you. They don't talk to you anymore, or they, stuff like that. You ever seen that before? You ever have a personal experience of hubris? Now imagine that with spiritual power. Imagine somebody taps into something that gives them this new level of awareness, right? Now they can see that the world is not really what they thought it was, and now they can understand this and that and the third, right? Now they understand all these things. Now they start acting real divine and holy, and now you're garbage, now you're trash, now you're beneath them, right? This is called hubris. Right? Now they are able to challenge God and challenge the spiritual teachers. Now they know more than everybody else, right? Now everything else is a lie. Everything else is a lie because they got a new piece of information. See, that is a dangerous place to be, because that's a level of blindness. You don't even understand that not much has changed. To you, it's a big change, but in comparison to the rest of the path, that's a tiny change. And why is it usually satisfying when those people who get all that money and change up, reality sets in, and all of a sudden they got to kind of atone. Anyways, let's continue. This is by way of discouraging any tendency on your part to what the Greeks called hubris, the strange spiritual pride and arrogance which so easily arises when the mighty forces of the unseen universe begin to find their channels through our personality. I have given the exercises in my book, The Magician, so you will already be familiar with them, but I want to go over them again so that you may understand them more fully. First of all, remember that you are, as it were, a conducting channel for the forces which flow from two sources. And you have within your psychosocial makeup the necessary contact points or terminals where these energies may be picked up. There is, in point of fact, an anatomy of the inner bodies. They have their organs, even as the physical body, right? The organs of the etheric body are called the chakras, right? And in this anatomy, there are two terminal centers or chakras, see, with which you are primarily concerned in these exercises. They are the center in the aura just above the head and the corresponding center in the aura just below the feet. On the tree, these two centers are referred to as Kether and Malkuth, respectively. It is through these two terminals or centers that we draw in the energies which we are going to use in our work. Which we are going to use in our work, and this is how it is done. First of all, you must visualize a sphere of pure white radiance about 3 or 4 inches above your head. Your training in visualization and projecting images will have enabled you to do this fairly easily. This radiant sphere of light should be seen as clearly as you can possibly build it up. And at the same time, you should feel it as a warm, vibrant globe, charged with power, which is steadily being radiated into your aura, traveling down to the earth center below the feet. Are you able to visualize that so far? Are you able to visualize that so far? Let's get it started. I think I kind of like Full Throttle better than Monster. So we talked about visualizing this radiant sphere of light about 3 to 4 inches above your head, right, around the Kether area. And it should be seen clearly. Build it up and feel it. Feel its warmth. Feel its vibrance. Feel that it is charged with power and steadily being radiated down into your aura. And allow that to travel down into the earth center below your feet. Hell, you can do that now if you want. When you have successfully built up this contact point above the head, you must now build up the corresponding terminal below the feet. Again, visualize the globe of light and project and locate it about 3 or 4 inches below the feet. But instead of the pure white brilliance of the head center, you must picture the incoming energy in this earth terminal to be a seething, surging energy of citrine, russet, olive, and indigo colors, all mixed together in a swirl of color. And if you're familiar with the mystical Kabbalah, you know on the cover, you'll see the picture of Malkuth with the 4 slices of color. In fact, I know you're well aware of this, but here it is, right? Right there at the bottom. Those are the colors he mentioned. Citrine, russet, olive, and indigo. But see, imagine that all swirled together. So imagine all these colors swirl together and mixed together in a swirl of color. As you will see, the visualization of the center in Malkuth is a good deal more difficult than the building up of the Kether center above the head, but it is most important that it should be done. Are you able to do that? There's been a good deal of misunderstanding about this basic center. Many people will have said that if you wear rubber shoes, you will cut yourself off from the earth magnetism, as it is called. Has any of you heard that? I was just thinking about that yesterday. You hear people that make these videos and stuff, and they'll say, oh, don't wear rubber heels, and don't wear high heel shoes. It cuts you off from the earth. It cuts you off from the vibration. There's all kind of videos about all kind of bullshit. with a straight face. This is not the case unless you make it so by definitely forming the idea that you will insulate yourself in this way. We are all living in the etheric counterpart of this planet. See, people that say that, they only recognize the physical aspect of reality, which is ironic because they're trying to sound spiritual, but they only recognize the physical aspect of this reality. You got to take a lot of spiritual advice on the internet with a shaker full of salt, not no grain of salt. You need a whole shaker, especially with TikTok in the mix. People will literally say anything for some clicks. But this is not the case unless you make it so by definitely forming the idea that you will insulate yourself in this way. And look at that. Imagine that you can start to actually hurt your spiritual development by listening to, accepting, and believing some jackass on TikTok. Imagine your spiritual progress halted by some person on TikTok who just made some shit up. And then you go accept it and believe it, and you start to condition yourself to manifest it. That's insane right there. That's insane. Some jackass on TikTok. Anamali says it used to be the spiritual substance dealer who would lead newbies astray back in college. Yeah, now it's TikTok. So, we are all living in the etheric counterpart of this planet. We are, in fact, immersed in it as a fish in the ocean. So, to imagine that the barrier of half an inch of rubber will prevent the etheric energies from reaching us is foolish. At the same time, there are certain forces which radiate from the ground on which we walk, and which are prevented from entering our etheric aura by insulating substances such as rubber and silk, to mention only two. But in the work we are going to do, this does not concern us, and you should dismiss the matter from your mind during the present exercises. Picture this earth contact as a swirling sphere of multicolored light, and feel it as a radiant center of heat. Practice until you can feel this heat very clearly. Persevere with the formulation of the center until it is well established as the corresponding one above your head. When this is done, you are ready for the next part of your work. Although you are now engaged in building up certain mental images and linking them up with the existing centers in the etheric body, you must realize that these centers are already working and that what you're doing is to establish certain mental control machinery. Mental control machinery. And this mental control machinery is in the aura in such a way that you may be able to vary the activity of these terminal points in any way you wish. Here I must warn you not to attempt any other regulation of the psychic energies involved. Keep to the one I am now describing to you. In other words, he's saying stick to the Kether and the Malkuth. Don't go dabbling with Gibera and Yasad and Had and Netzach and Chesed and Chachma and Bina. Not yet, anyways. The action of the etheric energies in the physical body is known in esoteric teaching as the burning of the fires of the body. The burning of the fires of the body. Each particular part of the body has its own type of fire, and there is an automatic regulation of these fires which is constantly at work. These energies, coordinated and working through the etheric or vital body, constitute part of what medical science terms the vis medicatrix natura, and their balanced action results in true physical health. Later, in your instruction, you will be taught more about this angle of your work. You will bear in mind that it is just as important to establish a sound inner organism. For though, as the poet says quite truly, for the soul of the body form doth take light, for the soul of the body form doth take, for soul is form, and doth the body make. It is equally true that unless the instrument, the form, which the soul is using on the physical plane is healthy, there will be a distortion and misdirection of the inner forces. And this accounts for much of the vague and indeterminate illness which is found among the members of some esoteric schools. In our school, we are inclined to the Roman maxim, a sound mind and a sound body, as being an ideal towards which we must work. There are exceptions, but they usually prove the general rule to be correct. There is an interaction between the two aspects of man's nature, and this has been recognized in the increasing stress laid by the medical profession on what they call psychosomatic treatment. Any tampering with the normal action of the body fires is both foolish and dangerous, and this for two reasons. The centers of psychic energy in the inner body are located over certain nerve centers and glands in the physical body, and any undue concentration on or disturbance of these nerves and glands can badly upset the balance of the body and result in definite physical disease. Secondly, the intensification of the fires can result in the breaking down of a certain protective surface of the vital body, and this can cause a very great deal of trouble, both physical and superphysical. In the lodge, you will be taught how to deal with these things, and the basic laws which govern this safe approach I shall give you in the next set of instructions. For the moment, I want to deal with the establishment of two general points of contact, the one which brings down the solar energies and the one which draws up the earth forces. Ooh, they come in groups of two now. Oh, groups of three. I'll keep an eye out for the next 10 minutes to see if they're still coming every 10 minutes. Okay, so in the lodge, you will be taught how to deal with these things, and the basic laws which govern this safe approach I shall give you in the next set of instructions. For the moment, I want to deal with the establishment of the two terminal points of contact, the one which brings down the solar energies and the one which draws up the earth forces. I've used the terms bring down and draw up, but actually these forces are always passing in upon you. Remember that. What you have to do is to reduce the resistance of your personality to them. Man, if this book wasn't a collector's edition, I would highlight that. So if you have a version physically, you might want to highlight that part. right? He's using the terms bring down the energy and draw up the energy, but actually these forces are always pressing in upon you. Look at this. What you have to do is to reduce the resistance of your personality to them. Let me tell you, most of the problems that we have is that we're in our own way. If you can learn to diminish yourself, you can start to experience what is actually there. The ego is the lie, the illusion. The ego is the illusion. Tizzy Rich says, explain what happens once you master this energy. Which energy, right? Because we're talking about quite a few different things. You tell me, which one are you referring to? We are usually so cluttered up with repressions and rigid thought complexes that the energies are choked back and cannot flow freely through our nature. In this exercise, you are using your own conscious will to open the way for these forces to flow through you. And by this very action, they will tend to restore the true balance of the bodily forces and so bring about a healthy condition, both of body and mind. When someone who claims to know and practice these things is always ailing, it's nice. All right, so when someone who claims to know and practice these things is always ailing in some way or the other, then you may be sure that as a general rule, it is due to the wrong application of these exercises. Sheesh. Let that soak in just for a little bit. I mean, sure, everybody, as we deal with life, we got our ups and our downs, right? We all have our ups and our downs, our trials and our tribulations. And just because something that might seem negative happens, that doesn't mean that somebody's, they're not doing their work or whatever. It's not that. Listen to what he actually said here. He said, when somebody who claims to know and practice these things is always ailing in somewhere, always, right? They are constantly having these problems, right? Always ailing in some way or another, then you may be sure that as a general rule, it is due to the wrong application of these exercises. Come on now. In other words, if you're really doing this work, your life should actually be getting better. You should be experiencing more balance, more harmony. That doesn't mean that life is suddenly perfect and nothing bad ever happens. Again, that's a lie. But it shouldn't be all the time you're running into some kind of trouble. A bump in the road is expected, right? It helps accelerate evolution and the burning of karma. That's funny. Art says, 100% I can relate to personality being in my own way of the flow of energy. I'm currently working on that during this new moon. Yeah, me too, right? I can even admit that that's something that I still have to work on. There are certain exceptions, but these simply prove the rule. As far as you are concerned, you will find that the methods I give you will produce the desired results with the least possible trouble. I have said this last very deliberately. For at the beginning of your work on this exercise, you will probably find that the effect of the conscious attempt to bring through these dynamic energies will be to cause some manifestation of bodily discomfort. Right? Absolutely. Even apparent disease. This, however, is due to the stir up of the various locked up energies in the mind and the body. Once the circuit of force has been established, these vague but annoying symptoms will disappear, and you will find that you have gained a wonderful vitality which will begin to affect the whole personality. Look, here's the thing. When you do start working with these forces for real, it will seem scary, right? Because different things will be happening in your life that seem like maybe bad luck. You know what I'm saying? Different things will manifest that might give you the impression that something is wrong. But what you must understand is that when you're stirring up these types of energies that you've never experienced before consciously, now your world and your reality and your environment has to take time to acclimate. And see, what you'll notice is that a lot of people who don't get this information, don't have a teacher at all, just start dabbling with stuff. When the bad stuff happens, quote unquote, they immediately now run and say, oh, magic is evil. The spirit stuff is evil, right? Stay in church, y'all. Don't mess with it. I dabbled with that stuff before. It's evil. It's bad. It's usually because these people experienced the effects of their work, but didn't finish it out. They didn't make that connection of the circuit of force. The Unfortunate has an entire book called Circuit of Force. I recommend you check it out if you have the time to read it. If you have the time to read it. Let's continue. Yeah, so once the circuit of force has been established, these vague but annoying symptoms will disappear, and you will find that you have gained a wonderful vitality, which will begin to affect the whole personality. Sometimes this new energy, which tends to follow whatever mental path has been strongly established in the mind, can cause some annoyance, as it may well affect and stimulate certain bodily activities which we may be trying to curb. This, of course, applies most strongly to those activities which express the primal urges of self-preservation, sex and herd mentality. So who's noticed that when you actually start working with spiritual energy, right, the sexual urge begins to increase? There's a reason why they say that the Kundalini energy, the creative energy, is almost exactly the same thing as the sexual energy. Hence the need and the existence of Tantra, different tantric practices. Tantra is not about having freaky magic sex. Tantra is about how to regulate that sexual energy in such a way that it leads you to an experience of enlightenment. So look at what he says here, right? Sometimes this new energy, which tends to follow whatever mental path has been strongly established in the mind. In other words, you've already gotten paths that are strongly established in your mind. You already have habits built up. You're a grown-ass adult. So by this point in time, you've already got several well-traveled neural pathways. I want you to think about this thing now. Several neural pathways that are well established. He says, now we're talking about working with this new type of energy, pulling down and pulling up this new type of energy. Sometimes this new energy, which tends to follow whatever mental path has been strongly established in the mind, can cause some annoyance, as it may well affect and stimulate certain bodily activities, which we may be trying to curb, right? You might be trying to cut back and cut down on some things. This, of course, applies most strongly to those activities which express the primal urges of self-preservation, sex, and herd. So even aside from the sexual stuff, right, you're going to have a need to want to be with other people, to go, I don't know, go to the club or the bar or whatever it is that you do, to go out to the sports ball game, sports ball. To do something to kind of distract yourself from this work and be amongst other people so you don't feel like you're going crazy. The remedy is to build up new channels, right? Because look, your mind is trying to go back to old channels that it knew that worked in the past. Your mind is trying to go back to the old channels that worked before you started working with this stuff, right? The remedy is to build up new channels. And the incoming forces will just as readily flow in the new riverbed as in the old one. What you must not do is to worry at this stage if you find that the increased vitality is affecting you in this way. It is because of this tendency that some teachers warn you off these exercises. But we in this school are of the opinion that with due care, these things can be adjusted and controlled and need not cause undue trouble. In the next instructions I shall send you, I will show you how to open up these energies and draw them into yourself. And at the same time, I will give you the necessary safeguards against their possible misdirection. All right. All right. Ooh, that was a quick one, Anna Molly. Had your sword out ready. That's what I'm talking about. Completely, Anna Molly. Obliterated. Back to Africa with them. Okay, so we went through a couple of things here. Let's see what we've got with this bringing through the power. So I think I mentioned also that on the end of this chapter, I was going to unbox my other astrology book that I got. First one I got was an ephemeris. That's probably really boring for you. You probably don't care too much about that one. But this next one might be a little bit more interesting. I honestly forgot which one it was, but we'll see. We shall see. Because as much as I love reading horoscopes and astrology and all that good stuff, I always wondered how cool it would be for me to be able to read my own. You ever feel like that? You ever wonder how cool it would be for you to read your own horoscope? Not just pull it up on somebody's website. I like to know how they came to that conclusion. Like what elements are in place for you to make that particular prediction. Sometimes it's extremely spot on. Other times it hardly makes any sense. And I'm thinking, did the prediction not make sense because maybe they interpreted it incorrectly? Well, that's part of the inspiration for me to learn my own astrology stuff. So let's see what we got here. Let's see what we got here. Bing, bam, boom. There we go. All right. Ready for this. Ooh. Now see, this is an old one. I've heard lots of good things about it. See that? Apparently there's like 3 or 4 books like this that are really, really good. Maybe if it's your thing, you might check it out. Maybe not. I, for one, can't wait. All right. Yeah. So this is what it was. Okay, so the reason I got this is because you know how when you look at the astrological alignment for the day, for the week, for the month, you've got the moon sextile Saturn and this conjunct that and this triangle that. Well, this book is like a dictionary. I believe this is the one that has like every possible combination, and you can just look it up and see what it means when this planet is in relationship with another planet. Now that I'm extremely stoked about. Extremely stoked about. But yeah, like I said, I got like 10 different old ass astrology books on the way that have like serious reviews from people who actually do astrology for a living. I can't wait. Artquark says that one is a classic. Excellent choices here. Yeah, man, I did my research. I do my research before I start moving in the direction that I want to move into. And my research has said that this one is an excellent one. I remember we used to talk a lot about, each chapter is about every planet that goes into square with what other planet in what sign. Perfect. Like, hell, this might be all I need. I might continue sharing the books that I got. I think I got like over $100 worth. But in any case, yeah. Good stuff. So yeah, we went through this book. We went through these couple of chapters. I think actually I'm going to go ahead and get to a little bit of studying on a different subject matter here. So look, I went live before this video. And if you didn't catch it, go back to my page and check it out. I only went live for about 15 minutes. Essentially, I've been talking about this particular arrangement that we have right now, where all the planets are on their right course. Nothing is retrograde. Nothing is negatively aspecting anything right now. Everything is in its natural flow. And this is a perfect time to do what Butler's talking about in this book and pull down these energies, right? To pull them down and ground them, to create what you're trying to create, to start a new skill, right? I'm learning how to do this astrology and some other stuff with NLP. This is a perfect time for you to get started this month, because after this month, everything goes back to the way it was. So check out my previous video. Check out the link that I have pinned here. I think it's still pinned, maybe not. But basically, I'm doing a workshop for the rest of this month, and we're going to go through about 12 of my favorite NLP techniques that can allow you to get extremely clear with what you're trying to do as far as manifestation, to help you to pull out deep levels of creativity, to obliterate procrastination and self-doubt and all those things that stop you from completing your goals, right? This is going to be a powerful workshop. And honestly, I don't think I'm going to keep it up for very long because, like I said, there's a lot of high-level NLP that I'm using in this to really pull deep into the subconscious mind. So if you're somebody who would like my help with manifesting the best 2024 that you could possibly manifest, I highly suggest you check out the link in the description here and check out my workshop that we're doing for the rest of this month. I'm telling you, the techniques that I have here, you're not really going to find anywhere else. This is some high quality stuff. But honestly, this is the end of the book study, and I'm about to jump on some of this astrology here. The new moon happens tomorrow. Well, it actually happens in about 6 hours. The new moon in Pisces. So, like I said, take advantage of that energy. Take advantage of tomorrow for starting something new. Get on your planning. Stick with your goals. Make it happen this year. Richard Tracy says, what kind of time commitment for this workshop? I'm crewing an online event from the 21st to the 24th. Okay, so the way that I'm doing this particular workshop is that I've recorded videos that walk you through the process of these particular NLP techniques. Like I walk you through the process and then I give you an example of what it looks like when you do it yourself. So honestly, you do it at your own pace because it's pre-recorded. But what I'm offering is that on Sunday afternoons, I'll hold a live where if you have any questions or if you need help understanding how to do any of this stuff, you'll be able to ask me live on the live stream. But other than those Sunday lives, the rest of the video is kind of mapped out the rest of the course is mapped out day by day with the techniques that you can follow and apply. Perfect. All right, so as usual, tune into the next part of this book. In a week from now, every Saturday evening we do this. I'm keeping pretty consistent with the tarot readings every Wednesday. Thursdays, you'll catch a live occult lecture from me. And if you're taking part in this workshop, we'll also have Sundays to really make sure that you understand this process of manifestation and you're applying these techniques in the correct way. The link I just pasted, if you're interested. All right. So everybody have a great evening. If there's any other questions or anything about that, let me know. Stay motivated. Stay motivated. Stay excited. All right, y'all. So that's that. Beautiful time to be alive. I'm telling you, there's like no excuses right now. No excuses. You can't blame it on Mercury retrograde. You can't blame it on Saturn. You can't blame it on nobody. Do what you have to do. Get it done. Get it done, because once this time passes and you start to see that this actually was the best time to get on your grind, once you actually see, once it's over, it'll be too late. You still literally have a whole 3 weeks, a whole 21 days if you haven't gotten started yet. You have a whole 21 days, and the new moon, the official new year, right? It's a super new moon at that. It's the official new year, Aries season, right? Here we go. The new moon starts tomorrow. Aries season launches a week afterwards. Then after that, we got a solar eclipse, I want to say. So yeah, it's going down. Incredible energies are being stirred up right now. Take advantage of them. Don't let this just be another day where you just continue to complain and just scroll and wish things were different. Do it. Do it while you have it, and you have it right now. And look, if you don't know what to do, I'm giving you an opportunity to work with me. I'm trying to help you. I'm really trying to make sure that you're utilizing this energy. This ain't coming back for a long time. So let's go. Let's go. All right, I'm out. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate you. Thank you for my mods for slicing the NPCs. I got to balance when I'm being nice and when I'm not. All right, so y'all have a great evening. We will continue this on the next installment. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. I love you. Peace. Hope you learned something tonight, and I hope that you take advantage of these energies that are present to manifest your best year yet. I said your best year yet. Who wants this to be your best year yet? Who wants this to just be another year? Just another one. I'm tired of just another one. I want the best that I can manifest for myself. Best year yet. I'll tell you what, don't nothing work like some high quality NLP. Don't nothing work like some good quality NLP. You can keep your affirmation. You can keep your healthy, wealthy, wise. You can keep your bowl of water under a full moon. You can keep your quartz crystal. Don't nothing work like NLP. Sheesh. All right, y'all. Let me crack open these books. Get to figuring out these aspects. I'm telling you, man, once you learn Kabbalah, tarot, and astrology, I think at that point, like, nothing is a mystery anymore. I don't think anything else can be hidden. I feel like I'm collecting the Infinity Stones for real. Astrology, tarot, and Kabbalah, those are all three dimensions of the same science. I don't understand how people do astrology without Kabbalah. I don't understand how people do tarot without Kabbalah. All right, I said I'm leaving like 30 times. It's time for me to really do that. All right, 11:11. See y'all next time. 11:11. See y'all next time. I done manifested unicorn Fruity Pebbles coffee. I'm invincible. I'm unstoppable. I don't know if you understand how much I love the Fruity Pebbles scent. Check this out. My baby mama got me some crispy treats wax melts. And this is pretty close to the best one that I've smelled. Even though it's Walmart brand, this smells better than some of the others that I've paid a lot more for. Literally just like you open up the box of Fruity Pebbles. I love it. I love it. All right. Love hanging out with you guys. I'll see y'all next time.